Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life, won't live in the past. All I wanna do now is making.
So I'm here with Sabrina Atkinson. Welcome to Making It Last podcast. I'm your host, Noreen Daly, and she's a computer science student at Northern Caribbean University. Welcome, Sabrina.
Thank you for having me, Miss Daly.
How can one strike the balance with what rubs you the wrong way and not sweating the small stuff?
Okay, so first of all, we have to identify what you mean by rubbing you the wrong way and sweating the small stuff. So for me, I think rubbing you the wrong way means things that upset you, things that tick you off, things that just cause your blood to boil. Let's just say that. And not sweating the small stuff would be just forgetting about it. It's not important. Let's just put it aside. You don't need to talk about it.
Okay.
So you're asking, how can one
Strike the
balance between saying when something upsets you and leaving it alone? So one of my life mottos is, if it doesn't matter in 5 years, don't spend 5 minutes talking, arguing, or fretting about it.
Nice.
So that I use that to govern my relationships, my communication with people. So if it is that you're going to say something to me that is going to matter in 5 years, I think it demands some time to think about it, some time to talk about it. So I can then say to you, well, Miss Daly, I didn't like the fact that you did this because it's going to affect me in a couple of years. I think it messed with my mental health or something like that. As long as it's going to matter in 5 years, then you can talk about it. That's what I think. However, you also have to think about the fact that your mental health is important. So if it is that something is constantly bothering you, somebody said something to you or did something to you and your mind constantly goes to it. You think about it every day. You wake up in the morning, it's all you think about. I feel like it needs some addressing because it's going to take away from your personal life. It's going to take away from the other things that you need to think about, the things that you need to do, because it's draining your energy. You're losing time. And so I think it demands some sharing at that time.
Okay. What about somebody who is listening and saying, but Sabrina, it sounds like you're nitpicking and every little thing you want to talk about. What would be your response to that?
I mean, you have to really think about each individual situation.
Okay.
And how it's going to affect you as a person and how it's going to affect the other person. So it's not about nitpicking, it's about having your head in the right space at the right time. And it reminds me of a quote that I see and I kind of like it. The art of being wise is knowing who to ignore, what to overlook, where to leave things, when to move on, and why it's all important. So then you'd realize that you're not really nitpicking. It's about your mental health and stability.
Okay. Do you think that is something that can then be applied across all relations? Specifically, I know given the stage you are in your life, school takes up a big chunk of your time. And then, of course, you have you have the school friends, you have the regular friends, and then, of course, family and all of that. Do you think this goes right across the board in terms of a 5-year rule, or do you think it is relationship specific?
No, it's definitely straight across the board because communication is key and you're going to communicate in all of these relationships. And at the end of the day, they're all contributing to you as a person. So if it is that something really doesn't matter in any relationship, then it just really doesn't need sharing. You really can just not sweat it because it's not going to affect the bigger things.
Okay. Well, who or what determine those bigger things though, Sabrina?
As I said, it's all situational. It depends on what's going to happen.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of an example here. For example, when I was in high school, grade 11, my mommy wanted me to go to sixth form, but I didn't want to go to sixth form. And so I thought that we had to have a sit down and we had to talk about it and we had to weigh the pros and the cons. We had to delve deep into it because it's going to affect me in 5 years. And it's not only going to affect me, it's going to affect her because you're going to have to think about the expenses and all of that. So she was thinking about right now, right this minute, because she was going to leave for a while and she wanted me to be here. But I was thinking about it long term. If I go to sixth form, I'm going to spend 2 extra years when I could have been out in 5.
Already,
right? So I think that a situation like that warrants some sitting and some sharing what rubs you the wrong way, because I really didn't want to go to sixth form and she really wanted me to stay closer to home.
Okay.
So I had to sit her down and say to her, Mommy, I really don't want to do this. I can't let it go because it's my future we're talking about here.
Okay. So if somebody who's listening, Sabrina, I think, boy, I don't know, because it's almost sounding like you're giving me a for want of a better word, a stush way of suppressing what's happening inside. And then if I suppress what happens inside, eventually I'm going to blow. And then when I blow, that could have far-reaching implications.
That's why the balance would come in, where if you constantly go back to it, it's something that bothers you. Because, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, it shouldn't bother you. But if it is that you're constantly going back to it, then don't sit down and blow up about it. I remember over the summer when I was working at a hotel for my internship, and I had some people my age who are my co-workers.
Okay.
And they constantly said some things that it upset me, but because of the person I am, I pushed it down. I didn't sweat the small things because it really wasn't going to matter after I left there. I just met them when I got there. After I leave, I wasn't going to see them again. However, every day I'd think about it and they'd probably say it again or say it in a different way. And I thought to myself, Sabrina, you really can't be thinking about this all the time. You really have to say something to them. Say it to them and see if they change. If not, then don't sweat it, because that's how they are. So I went to them and I said, I really don't like this. I really don't appreciate it. I would appreciate if you did it this way, or you didn't say this. And they said to me, well, I'm sorry, that's just how I am. If it bothers you, then just don't. And I'm like, okay. And I dropped it. And that was the end of it. They said it again. I don't care. I addressed it. It's fine. It's gone. It's not bothering me anymore. So
a lot of people are listening and they're saying, Sabrina, I don't know how to get to that space or that mental space where you are. What are your recommendations, or what are some of the things that you use? Outside of telling us, yes, the 5-year, but there must be something else.
Well, I think I pay a lot of it to my mommy, because she instilled it in me from I was younger to say, hey, if it's not going to kill you, it's going to be okay. And I grew up with this throughout my entire life, because basic school, if something happened, she wouldn't come to school. She said, Sabrina, are you dying? No, mommy, it's fine. I don't need to come to school. Primary school, conflicts happen with your classmates, all of that. I went home, mommy, this and this happened. Did you die? Do you hurt? Are you hurting? No, it's fine. It's going to be okay. So, it's all about the things that you feed yourself, the people that you communicate with. Yeah. So I think you have to have a positive person to help push you, for you to realize that sometimes you really don't need to sweat the small things. You can just let it go.
For those of us who might be listening and saying, but it's easier said than done. How then do I create that environment if I don't have it right now?
Well, personally, I try to take some time out of my day and think about my entire day, or maybe my week. So my roommates know that there's a point in the day when I have to be by myself and I just reflect. So that in that reflecting, I think about things that I could have said better, things that I could have done better, things that I probably didn't need to say, things that I probably should have said. So maybe what I could say to people out there is that maybe you need to take some time and reflect. Think about the things that you are allowing to bother you and things that you shouldn't sweat. And then maybe that little time of reflection can help you to reach that mental space.
I can relate to some of what you said earlier, because I do recognize that if it is that something continues to bother me, or if it bothers me, and then I might say to the person, say, hey, Sabrina, you did this, and so on. And if they continue to do it or they do it again, in my mind, I have made that disconnect, so it will
Right.
not continue to bother me. So
Right.
that is true, because when you take control then of your emotions to some extent, because when you allow yourself to get upset, what you really do is giving other people
More fire, right?
more fire and more control over emotions.
Right.
What then, Sabrina, would you say is a 3-step process then to get to this place? Even if it is that you repeat some of what you said, but if you had to then describe a 3-step process to ensure that you strike that balance between what rubs you the wrong way and not sweating the small stuff, what would that 3-step process be?
Okay, so maybe the first step would be stopping in the moment and thinking about if it matters in the long run.
Okay.
So you're going to, in the heat of the moment, the thing just happened, you're going to think about it. Do I really need to address this? Does it really matter? Should I just let it go? The second step would be to reflect, to think about it after it's long gone. So you take a time out of your day and you sit down and you meditate, you think about it. What should I have done better? What should I have said better? Should I have said it? And the third step would maybe be to talk about it with other people.
Okay.
So when I say talk about it, I mean like share with somebody who isn't in the situation.
Okay, because that was going to actually be my next question. Who are you talking about this with?
Right. I find that if I can't address it to you, I can address it to somebody who completely has no idea what's going on, and just tell them, maybe they can't even give me advice, but just talking about it with somebody else who won't have any opinion, who won't argue back because they're having the opposite feelings. I don't know, just talking about it with somebody else and just understanding, hearing how you sound out loud before you go into the person.
Sure.
Those will be my 3 steps.
True. I've actually used that technique because a lot of times when I have something that's bothering me and I really can't talk to the person about it just then, I ask somebody else whose opinion I matter and who is definitely wise beyond my years. And when you get a different perspective, it really puts a different spin on this.
Right.
As we're wrapping up though, any final thoughts on this?
Well, a final thought would be, you should realize that it's almost always healthier to not sweat the small stuff. Because constantly going heel and toe with somebody, it drains you emotionally. If somebody says something to you and you constantly have to rebut, you have to give your 2 cents, it's draining. So sometimes it's almost always healthier to not sweat the small stuff.
Yeah. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. Ladies and gents, you've listened to another podcast where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, with other people. I am Noreen Daly. Until next time.
Mothers and fathers, husbands and wives, sisters and brothers, friends for life.